today's episode of Offbeat. For first-time viewers, I'm Rebecca.
I'm Cabana.
And I'm Nikki.
And today we are super excited to welcome into the studio Anna Suzuki. Say hi to our millions of viewers, Anna.
Hi!
So Anna is a New York City-based comedian and actor, but she was actually born and raised largely in Japan. Anna, would you mind starting off by telling us a little bit about what it was like to grow up in Japan? I know that you've said that your dad worked as a comedian there.
Yes, I don't mind telling you guys at all. I lived in Japan until I was 12, and then in 7th grade, my entire family and I decided to move to New York City, where my Jewish father is from. And so I moved to New York, and I learned to speak English by the time I was about 15, I would say.
Okay. How did you first get into comedy? Was it because of your dad, or did you just have a natural interest in it?
I think with comedy, you either got it or you don't, and I got it. I went to college for musical theater, actually, but I was always assigned funny songs, and I always ended up being the comedic relief in class, so I think I just had really good comedic timing, and that became my career. My parents are super supportive of my career. My dad was a comedian, is a comedian. My mom loves being on camera. Yeah, my parents are very supportive.
What was that one video that your dad was in?
Yes, my father is a Jew. He looks exactly like George Costanza from Seinfeld, if you guys know. It's a show from the 90s. But in Japan, because he's a Jew who speaks Japanese fluently, he was doing a lot of TV work, and he was always cast as the token evil white mafia boss. So one of the shows he worked on in Tokyo went viral on YouTube, and I didn't know until a white friend of mine showed it to me. He was like, over brunch, he was like, look at this crazy Japanese variety show, and I was like, that's my dad.
Did your dad not show you?
No, he just didn't think it was important. So Google, take anything you want. Yeah. It was an exercise / English language show from the early 90s, and the concept was that by exercising and learning English at the same time, the muscle memory will help you retain English better. So they had these Japanese girls in tight sparkling spandex outfits, repeating English phrases but also exercising at the same time. So my dad would play like a white robber who would try to rob this Japanese woman, and then the woman's supposed to go, take anything you want. The girls are also exercising, so they're going, take anything you want. That's the whole show. Yeah, my dad's very proud of it.
You have a project called Japandering.
Yes.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So a TV project that I'm developing is heavily based on my life. The only difference is that in the show, the protagonist grew up in the U.S., and goes back to Japan to try to connect with her Asianness, to reclaim her Asianness. It's a standard coming-of-age story, but it also deals with identity, and I don't think we see a lot of comedies about identity.
Can you talk maybe a little bit more about your Soul Glow project?
Yes, absolutely. So I am one of the 3 co-hosts of a podcast called Soul Glow Project, and it started as a live show many years ago around here in the East Village. And my co-hosts and I wanted to give voice to comedic performers who are underrepresented in the comedy community. So even today in 2017, comedy tends to be a very heteronormative white community. The mission of Soul Glow is very near and dear to my heart because I am not a heteronormative white guy. But I think all of our voices here, count as much as the next white guy. And we also try very hard to book guests who are people of color or is transgender. I bet you didn't even know there were trans comedians, but there are. So, yeah.
Can you maybe talk a little bit more about your music career with Asian Pop?
Of course, yes. So I have a sketch comedy group called Asian Pop. modeled after modern K-pop, Korean pop bands. And that's a very popular form of, or genre of music on its own. So we thought it would be funny to take that concept of, 20, 18-year-olds dressed in schoolgirl outfits, even though they've probably already graduated high school, and mimic that, but write funny songs. So me and 4 other Asian female comedians, we got together and we wrote a lot of funny songs, and now we have a show running at Upright Citizens Brigade, which is a popular New York City comedy theater, and we have a show twice a month where we sing songs about white guys.
Like, who is your audience? And if they're not the same people who you are seeking to represent, how do people normally react to it?
Yes. So we've found that the audience also tends to be white and heterosexual and young, because it's easier to attend a comedy show where you can relate to the performers.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since I started SoGlo or brought Asian pop to UCB, we found that we have been able to somehow bring together a very diverse, eclectic mix of audience members, and we've heard from audience that it's been a very cathartic experience to see a comedy show like that, because they've never seen anything like that before. And also, I think the white audience members, or people who usually represent more of the norm of a comedy audience, have learned new things through our shows. So overall, it's been a really positive experience and a mix of everyone.
I mean, a lot of actors of color have sort of spoken to the experience of being typecasted a lot because of their race. Have you experienced that at all, like while going out for like auditions and casting calls?
Yeah, I'm in a weird position because I'm biracial. Because I'm half white, a lot of people don't know what I am, or they'll assume wrongly. One time I had a commercial audition, and I had to play a mom. So the first time around, they gave me Chinese kids because they didn't know what I was. And then they told me to come back because they liked my performance, but then they gave me Mexican kids because they didn't know what I was. So I don't have the typical problem of, maybe being cast as a geisha one too many times. But I do know a lot of Asian girlfriends who experience that.
So you say that you look racially ambiguous. How was that experience growing up in Japan, right? You were Japanese, you grew up in Japan, that was your first language.
Well, interestingly, when I was growing up there, because I only spoke Japanese and I only had Japanese friends, I just assumed I was Japanese, and I never really had any issues about being ethnically ambiguous. But since I moved here and I became more adapted to the Western lifestyle, more and more Japanese people started telling me, "Oh, you pass as white."
Do you not ever feel pressure to Japanese it up while you're back
I
in
used
Japan?
to, and I would watch YouTube tutorials on how to make my eyebrows look more Asian and things like that.
Oh yeah.
But then I reached a point where I was like who am I trying to please? I can watch all the YouTube videos I want and go to Japan, and it's still not me.
Well, it's been so nice getting to chat with you
Yeah.
and learning more about your projects and what you're working on.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you. Thank you.
That concludes this episode of Offbeat. As always, Rebecca, Nikki, and I will continue to bring you everything that's keeping New York unique. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.